Yo, what is going on, guys? Another year has passed playing Marvel Contest of Champions. It's crazy. This year absolutely flew by, which is a good thing because of COVID. But yeah, it just went by so quickly, I feel like. Now, again, I'm not complaining. I'm excited for this year to be over. But with another year end, I like to make some videos at the end of the year reviewing the champions that we've had, because we get about like 25 champions per year, something like that. And there was a bunch this year, and I feel like the year started off very slow, especially compared to 2019. 2019, there's just so many crazy good champions. I feel like 2019 has overall the best year of champions, and so going into 2020, there was very high expectations. And again, at the start, there was Nova, Squirrel Girl, off to a pretty bad start. And throughout the year, it definitely picked up. I think this year was pretty solid overall now that it's come to an end. So we're going to talk about the top 10 best champions that were released this year, in my own opinion. And then we'll also make a video talking about the top 5 worst champions, in my opinion. That one's always fun. So again, this is fully my opinion based upon my own personal experience playing these characters when they came out for the CCP. Some of them I have ranked up. I use an Alliance War as well. That heavily influences my decision if I've used a champion and it's performed extremely well for me. And of course, I'm going to put it higher on the list. And also based upon some champions I don't know super well, so based upon people's opinions that I trust, and just also community opinions based upon those characters. But again, this is my list. If you disagree, that's totally fine. So yeah, let's jump into it. So we're going to start with a couple of honorable mentions. So that is Mojo coming up first here as a honorable mention. So Mojo, I think he's really cool. There was a little bit of I guess it was kind of bugged originally when I first used him in the CCP with his ability. It was working, or maybe it might have been the synergy that I was using with Clairvoyant. Because when I was using him there against the champion, buffs were just like not lasting like any time at all, and it was ridiculous, and it was so good. Even as like a rank 3 5-star taking on the 6.2 champion pre-nerf, it was probably like the cleanest, smoothest run I had. It was really, really crazy. But after they made that change, it's not quite as good. But I do think Mojo is a really solid champion. You do have to ramp him up, but his ramp up isn't bad. That's what I like about him. The only thing is he needs to be signature level 200. So you see I have 2 Mojos here, 5-star and 6-star, and they're both not ranked up. It's just because they're unawakened. If I could awaken them and get them to a high sig, I'd totally rank him up. I think he's pretty cool, except he's really ugly also. So yeah, that's one honorable mention. Another honorable mention I wanna shout out is Red Goblin. So I have Red Goblin at rank 5. Albeit I haven't really used him at all. Once I took him to rank 5, this was just for defense. I did like Red Goblin. I feel like if he would have came out in a different month, just like a couple months, if he would have came out when like Terrax or Airwalker came out, I feel like he would get a lot more praise. But because he came out with Cosmic Ghost Rider, he is just so in his shadow that no one talks about Red Goblin at all. I don't see anyone talk about this guy now, whereas everyone's talking about Cosmic Ghost Rider, myself included. So I feel like this guy was just really living in Cosmic Ghost Rider's shadow, but he is a good champ. He just needs, I feel like, a couple tweaks. He just takes a little bit to get going, but he's a really good counter to Spider-Verse characters. And a buddy of mine, Dap, in Alliance Quest, uses this guy in Alliance Quest on this like full Spider-Verse path, and he just crushes it with Red Goblin. So I do think Red Goblin has his place in the game. I think he's a good champion worth mentioning on this top 10 list. So now at the number 10 spot, we actually have a 3-way tie, which there's not going to be any more ties on this list, but there was just so many champions that I wanted to get that I think deserve to be top 10 that have come out this year, and this is the only way to do it. So we have a 3-way tie for that 10th spot. Coming in at number 1 on 3-way tie is Red Guardian. So I think Red Guardian is really good. The couple downsides is he needs to be max sig as well, similar to Mojo, to really get the most out of him. But he's a really solid champion. He has slow. but he does have some big drawbacks. These drawbacks are what really hold him back, in my opinion. For one, he doesn't have any immunities, which is okay because his utility of being buff immune makes up for that. There's a ton of utility that he gets from that. But the trauma, which is a big way to increase his damage output, it's really ridiculous to try to keep it active for a long period of time, let alone like 2 of them. So that's a big downside. If you could keep that up easier, it'd be great. And also his crit rate. His crit rate is trash, and if you're not critting, then his damage output is super lackluster, which is never what you want in a champion. And there's no way for him to get crits, to get guaranteed crits or to increase his critical rate. The only way you can do that is like putting the 3 out of 3 in the dexterity mastery, and using that precision to try to crit more, which is very unfortunate. And a big reason why I'm not the biggest fan of Red Guardian is because I used him in Alliance War against a Dr. Doom mini boss, 5-minute war fight, and I timed out. After that, I don't think I've very rarely played this guy after that, because that really just I don't know, just left a bad taste in my mouth for Red Guardian. But I do think he is a solid champ with a lot of utility with his buff immunity, his slow, some very good uses and utility that he has there. So the next champion that is tied for the number 10 spot is actually HitMonkey, a champion that I have at 6-star rank 3. So I do think HitMonkey is a solid champion. I think I might have maybe oversold him a little bit. The reason why I was so excited about this guy, because I compare him to Corvus quite a bit, and he is very similar to Corvus in damage output, but he's not very similar to Corvus in utility. And what I mean by that, and survivability. His block proficiency really holds HitMonkey back. It is quite low. His health pool is also low, which is never great. And he doesn't have Corvus's biggest piece of utility, which is Corvus's sig ability, being able to get around dying from debuffs or any DOT type of means, which is what makes Corvus a tier above most characters in this game. But I do think HitMonkey is really great if you're on the Suicide Masteries. Phenomenal damage output, guaranteed crits, which is always really good if you got to fight like a Dr. Doom or something, or just somewhere where you're having trouble critting. HitMonkey, guaranteed crits, 3-hit combos, you'll infinitely crit. There's not many champions in the game that can do that. He has no build-up fights, and he has no limit on his crits. You can just 3-hit combo, medium, light, medium, and you'll infinitely crit forever, which is pretty cool. Now, I don't think there's any champion that can do that just like that. Ghost can infinitely crit, which is only mediums. But yeah, it's pretty cool. He also got some bleed. He also has some evade as a safety net. He can also counter evade fairly well. I fought Labyrinth Spider-Man with him, and he did a great job of that. So yeah, that's our second champion coming in at number 10. And our third champion coming in at number 10 is the newest champion in the game, SpiderHam. Whoops. Scrolling a little too fast there. Right here, SpiderHam. I got him as a 2-star. Everyone does. So yeah, SpiderHam is really solid. He has really great damage output and some pretty decent utility. He did just come out, so I wasn't quite sure where I wanted to put him. I do think he is deserving of the top 10, so yeah, I put him at the 3-way tie at number 10. So those are our 3 characters making it at number 10. Now let's move on to the rest of the list. And like I said, no more ties from here on out. So coming in at number 9, we have a mutant champion, and that mutant champion is Professor X. So Professor X is a absolutely phenomenal champion. If this dude just had some immunities, I think he could be one of the best mutants in the game for sure. But his lack of immunities, I think, is one of the only things that is really holding him back. But he just has phenomenal damage output. This dude can hit insanely hard. You throw a mutant boost on this dude, and holy fudge, you can just cycle specials. He has non-contact attacks, so this allows him to fight champions like Korg and not take any thorns damage. He does have immunity to reversed controls, which is a nice piece of immunity. I guess he does have that as an immunity. Very rare for it to be useful, but when you want it, when when it's needed, it does come in handy, like against the Grandmaster. He did a great job soloing him. He also has a really nice safety net with his falter mechanic. This is probably my favorite thing about him. Really, really cool. And then also he's just a great counter to evade and miss, which is awesome to have, you know. It's kind of like how Nick Fury is a phenomenal evade and miss counter, but Professor X can just more readily access that utility in a fight, whereas, you know, Nick Fury, to really have like full uptime on it, you want to lose your LMD and then throw a special 1 to get enough technical charges, whereas Professor X, he just needs to get 25 of his channeling charges, and you can get that very quick, like 20 seconds into the fight, and you can just kind of slow play it, and boom, you can counter, evade, and miss, which is phenomenal. I think this guy is really, really good. I really hope to get him as a 6-star champion. Love Professor X. I honestly would like to put him higher on this list, but the next few champions are all just really good and just I feel like have a bit more utility. So coming in at number 8 and 7 and 6, we have a bunch of Mystic champions. This was the year of Mystics, so many Mystic characters. So coming in at number 8, we have Tigra. Now, put an asterisk on this placement. If you can play Tigra perfectly, then I think she is a top 2 character for this year. Top 2. I don't think she's number 1 with perfect play, but I think she could be number 2 with absolutely phenomenal, perfect Tigra gameplay. I think she's the number 2 champion of this year. 100%. I think she's actually that good, but she has an insanely high skill cap to playing her, and also it's really that. It's really about playing her perfectly, and it's going to be very, very hard to really master her. I don't know if anyone has 100% mastered her. I've seen some pretty cool stuff, and it's really awesome to see that people are starting to really get good with her. That's what I said that when in my CCP video when she first came out. I was like, she seems pretty cool, but you know, right now, But once you really learn how to play her, I feel like she'll be making some waves in the game, like similar to like Quake. And yeah, it's really cool to see people talking about her and seeing the gameplay of what she can do. So yeah, putting her at number 8. But like I said, if you can play her perfectly, she's a top 2 champion. Coming in at number 7, we have another Mystic champion, and that is Dragon Man. Where is he? There he is. Dragon Man. So the first ever dragon to come into Marvel Contest of Champions. This dude is awesome, man. He's really awesome. So he's actually a robot. You couldn't tell by looking at him, but he is a robot. So of course, all robots have immunity to bleed and poison, and he's also immune to armor shatter, which is cool. So, you know, champions like Medusa and Vision Arcus aren't able to counter and lock him down with their armor shatter abilities, which is cool. He's the only robot in the game to be able to do that. And this dude is he's really awesome. He's not your traditional Mystic character. He does stuff very different than most other Mystics, whereas, you know, he doesn't really control power by power locking it or power draining it. He controls it by giving them reduced combative power rate, which is very odd. He also has really good he has really good damage output. You can use his special 2s to apply incinerates, and then with your heavy attack, you can like basically detonate those incinerates and deal a bunch of direct energy damage. With the special 3, it's kind of like similar to Thing, how you can go unstoppable, unblockable, and then you can actually heal the damage that you're taking. You can heal 85% of the hit damage that you receive. I think with the recovery match, you can get up to 100%. So you can just go ham on the opponent. When you get them in the corner, they become cornered, and you deal additional physical damage with every hit. It's really crazy, and it's really cool, and he's actually a phenomenal champion, man. He's a really cool and really solid champion, man. I really like Dragon Man. He's got great immunities, a great utility, great use, great damage. He's just awesome. Nothing like game-breakingly crazy or anything like that, but, you know, overall, just a solid champion, making it at the number 7 spot for the top 10 best champions released this year. So coming in at the number 6 spot, we have one of the most, I'd say, overhyped characters that have ever come out. I'd say Cull Obsidian's probably number 1, and if Cull Obsidian's number 1, I'd say Longshot's probably like top 3, at least top 5 most overhyped champions that have come out. And it's because he has insane damage output. Longshot just has absolutely ridiculous damage output, man. It's actually crazy. Even what a rank 3 5-star is doing when I was making my content creator program video on him was just, he was doing more damage than 565 Mystic champions. It was honestly crazy. When Longshot came out, there wasn't a whole lot of Mystic champions that were just like heavy damage dealers. There's still not a bunch of them. Longshot, he has the damage in spades. He's really just lacking the more utility side of things. He can't really control power, which kind of sucks for a Mystic character. He can control buffs kind of through his signature ability here. He has a chance to nullify them, similar to like Doctor Strange's passive nullify ability. But he doesn't really have great other ways to control buffs. But he is good in buff matchups to just do insane damage output, which is awesome. But yeah, it's really all about the damage with Longshot. His damage output is no joke, man. And this dude, I've seen this dude pick up so many kills on defense because of how ridiculous that damage output is. One slip up and you're dead. Or just bring in the wrong counter and you're dead. Like, I've seen people play perfectly against him, but they didn't bring in the right champ. 1 special 2, they don't even get hit by it. Melted. It's honestly crazy. So yeah, man, Longshot comes in at the number 6 spot. So coming in at the number 5 spot, we got the top 5 best champions now released in 2020. We have Immortal Abomination up first. So Immortal Abomination, him and Mojo are top 2 for the ugliest characters, I think, in MCOC, definitely at least released this year. This dude is so gross and ugly. He's like farting and puking in his specials. It is so gross, and he's so ugly to look at. But the dude's actually a beast. He's so good, actually. His poison damage is actually off the charts. He's got great utility in countering weird stuff. Like, he's a good Doctor Doom counter with his Petrify and his weaknesses that he can place. Just overall a really solid champion. He takes a little bit to actually ramp up in fights. So, on medium length fights, he's not going to get too crazy. He's still going to be solid. But on like really long fights, you can see his damage potential. We made a CCP video fighting Labyrinth Star-Lord. We fully ramped him up. And it's just insane. You can be unblockable. You're just throwing on poisons, acid burn. It's nuts, dude. He's super fun to play as well. He's just doing rollouts. It's a great time. It's a great time with him. His toxic aura. It's easy to keep active with his poisons. And yeah, he's just a overall really great champ. Brian Grant actually helped create him and his abilities and everything like that. So that's really cool. He's really awesome, man. I'm a big fan of this dude. It's very unfortunate that he's actually not in the next 6-star featured crystal, because if he was, I would totally rank 3 and awaken him if I pulled him. But yeah, he makes it at the number 5 spot for top 10 best champs released in 2020. So moving on, we have the champion in number 4, and that is Guardian. So Guardian, he gets points for the coolest looking character in MCOC. Look at that suit, man. He's got a Canadian flag looking suit. It is most stylish guy in MCOC for sure. He gets my vote. Absolutely love this guy, man. He has a laundry list of immunities, but even if you're not going to use him, just having him on your team is great. He has a synergy here. At the 5-star, it's 1,000 additional block proficiency. That is huge. And the 6-star, actually, I believe it goes up to 1,500 block proficiency. So the higher the rarity, the more block proficiency. That is just one of the absolute best synergies in the game. I'd say this and Heimdall are probably the 2 best synergies to just throw on a team if you have the extra slot. Phenomenal synergies right there, man. It's going to save you so much block damage, and it's a silent buff to champions like Cull Obsidian, who have just such terrible block proficiency. But the Guardian's massive utility comes from his awakened ability. So again, it's another character that really needs to be awakened and very high sig to take full advantage of his utility. But when full sig, he gets 2,500 block proficiency. So this dude's block is super strong. This is only when he has an armor up buff, which he starts with 1, so unless it gets nullified or after you use special 2, it does come back. So this is for most of the time in most matchups. He has 8,000 energy resistance, which is an absolute ton. This essentially makes him net positive healing with the willpower mastery from energy-based debuffs like Incinerate, Cold Snap, Shock, all that. He can heal actually with willpower. The energy resistance is that high. And then he also has bleed resistance, almost 80% at signature level 200. So that's Incinerate, Cold Snap, Shock, and bleed basically as immunities at Sig 200. Pseudo immunities, you could say, which is crazy. That's a ton of immunities. And that also does work for passive effects, like a passive bleed, passive shock. He will have that energy resistance for those, but he cannot gain willpower healing from those since they're not debuffs, but he still will reduce that damage greatly. And this energy resistance isn't just limited to those effects, it's limited to anything that counts as energy resistance. So for some examples here, Electro, when you're fighting Electro, that's energy damage that you'd be taking from him, so it's greatly reduced. Magic, her Limbo is energy damage, so that's greatly reduced. There's just so many annoying types of damage in this game that is classed as energy resistance that Guardian can actually bypass, which is great. Some other utility that he has is, again, having that armor up buff is good for fight like Havocs and stuff. He does not crit. He never crits. So, that's great if fighting Mr. Sinisters or, just areas where you don't want to crit. But he doesn't lose out on that critical damage. Instead, he deals it as shock damage, which is great unless you're fighting a shock immune character. That's the only time it's not great. And he has some pretty crazy damage output. It does take a little bit of build up. You just want to go for a couple of special 3s and then go for a massive special 2 to drop all the damage that you built up in special 3s. But yeah, Guardian, phenomenal character, man. So much utility. Once he's max sig, great champion. He comes in at the number 4 spot at the best champion of the year, in my opinion. Now we get to the top 3. So the next champion I have is Apocalypse. I think I have a 3-star. Yeah. So Apocalypse comes in as the number 3 best champion released this year. On his own, I don't think Apocalypse is top 3, but for what he will do for your roster, puts him at the number 3 spot. His Horseman ability is just one of the coolest abilities in the game, and it's it just makes some characters insane. It takes some characters that are memes in this game, and it makes them more above God tier. It is crazy what he can do for your roster. Some people have literally taken their 6-star Cable to rank 3, sheerly because as a Horseman, Cable's a beast, and for that reason alone, they've done that. Which I personally, I wouldn't do it, but I've seriously seen and heard of people doing it. And it's made me try my hardest to get a 5-star OG Wolverine, who, is a really cool champion in his own right. But I saw rank 5 Wolverine gameplay, and it's pretty disappointing. But then I made Wolverine a Horseman at rank 5, and it absolutely blew my mind. I think he's one of the best mutant champions in the entire game as a Horseman. It's crazy. So just what Apocalypse can do for the entire mutant class and for your roster is what puts him at the number 3 spot. But, Apocalypse himself is still a really solid champion. He's got some pretty cool utility. He can gain bleed and incinerate immunity in a quest if you have to deal with that, which is pretty cool. He can also start to bypass evasion. For every time he gets evaded, he gains a 10% chance to bypass evasion in the future. I'm not the biggest fan of that. I wish there was a way to get it to 100% quicker. But, it's cool. And then I think he's the only champion in the game to fully counter Purify. Opponents suffer 100% Purify ability extra reduction. He's the only champion that you can reliably take just straight up out of the gate, and you won't have your debuffs shrugged, which is really cool. Omega Red at 10 spores can do it, but it takes time to build up those 10 spores. But yeah, Apocalypse just straight up has it out of the gate, and it's very useful for fighting champions like Kingpin, Mole Man, King Groot. They'll just never be able to shrug off your debuffs. And once you actually build up Apocalypse, he's pretty slow to fully build up, but once you do, he actually has insane damage over time damage. It's absolutely ridiculous. You can get 4 debuffs built up, a concussion, a weakness, a poison, and a degen. The poison and the degen, once fully built up, tick for a lot of damage just every second. And then there's also a concussion, reducing their ability actually by a lot, and a weakness, reducing their damage by a lot. So if you happen to slip up and get hit or just a block damage, it's greatly reduced. So yeah, Apocalypse, just phenomenal champion. On his own, not quite top 3, but still solid for sure. But when you put that with everything he can do for the mutant class as well, taking meme tiers to god tier, I think he's more than deserving of that number 3 spot. Now we get to the top 2. So coming in at the number 2 spot, we have Sorcerer Supreme. So I've seen some people really sleeping on Sorcerer Supreme. Seaton, I saw in his top 10 Mystic video, put her at about number 6 for the top Mystic champions in the game, and I greatly disagree with that. I think Sorcerer Supreme is top 3 in the Mystic class for sure. I think it goes Doom, Claire, Sorcerer, and it depends on Sorcerer and Claire situationally. Of course, for suicides and immunities, Claire, but Sorcerer Supreme, man, I think she's the second best champion released this year. I think she is just so good. I have her as a 6-star rank 3. I used her for a lot of wars in season 22. I did not die a single time with her. I soloed multiple bosses with her, and I soloed 2 Magneto bosses with her. In both fights, I finished with a 100% HP, a full yellow bar, in an Alliance War boss fight. 6-star rank 3 Magneto in the highest tier of war against some of the best alliances in the entire world. That is goddamn impressive, man. Not only soloing it, but soloing it was easy. It was super easy. I barely intercepted. I barely played well. All I did was bait out heavy attacks. That's all I did. And I finished with 100% HP. That is so impressive. No other champion in the game can do that the way she did it. It is honestly insane what she can do. She has one of the coolest abilities ever, which is her regeneration on block. So when you're in, she has 3 phases like most of the Doctor Strange type characters have. And when you're in Runes of Ragador and you activate a special attack, you're going to trigger a passive regeneration effect. It heals up 675 health over 12 seconds. It's definitely not a big healing, but that's not why it's good. It's a nice healing to have, sure. But while this is active, Sorcerer Supreme regenerates 75% of the damage she takes from blocked hits. This, paired with the Recovery Master, I believe can get it up to 90%. And you can literally just bait out heavy attacks. You can take specials on your block. It is so good, man. It is so good. It's like Perfect Block, but different, but almost just as effective. It is so strong of an ability, just that regeneration alone, but Sorcerer Supreme has other stuff going for her as well. She can place armor breaks, which reduce the opponent's armor rating by 2,150, which is a lot of reduction. You can stack those up, so you can actually get really good damage output with her, which is always nice to have a champion that can deal damage. So she's got damage, regen, insane block basically, and also slow. There's not very many Mystic champions in the game that have slow, so that's cool. Slow champions are awesome, man, to bypass, evade, and unstoppable. And yeah, she can so easily take advantage of all 3 of these. She also can take advantage of Mystic Dispersion. She doesn't have the best buff control in the game. You have to use your special ones. You actually activate a nullification aura, which when you're in the presence of the opponent, you're going to be nullifying their buffs, which is really solid. So she does have a way to control buffs. She doesn't have a great power control ability, but she does have some. When she's in her Icon's Ingenuity, grants all hits power steal 3% of the opponent's current power, and Sorcerer Supreme gains 150% of the power stolen. So you can control power a little bit with that power steal. It's not huge, but she just can do so much. She can also has a pre-fight to start with whatever phase you like. And yeah, dude, I think Sorcerer Supreme is just such a good champion. I think she's really slept on by some people. And yeah, I think she is deserving of the number 2 best champion of 2020. Not being biased because I have her as a rank 3. If you don't believe me, you can go watch my war videos where I use her. I had one Alliance War with 11 fights. I used her for 5 of the fights. She just killed it. She takes care of all of the annoying cosmic defenders like 6-star rank 3 Nova, Annihilus, and like I said, I even soloed bosses with her and came out with full health. I think she is just a phenomenal champion, man. Top 2 of the year. Now, we have the number 1 best champion released this year, and I think you guys know where this is going. Cosmic Ghost Rider. So I think Cosmic Ghost Rider is pretty much by far the best champion released this year. He is just so good, man. He has some of the best easily, like, quick and bursty damage output in the game. Like, you can get his damage output going within like the first 20 seconds of a fight. You can just get off a massive special 2 right off the bat. It is so crazy how good this guy is. He's so good that he's already been nerfed. He's already been nerfed by Kabam. When he first came out, his armor breaks had a higher potency, and his damage output was even more insane. But they nerfed him. They had to reduce it because he was just doing too much damage. And this is the nerf version that we got. And he's still so good, man. It's insane damage output. Once you really learn his cycle and how to play him like efficiently, it's going to be a different cycle. Like, a lot of people ask me, what's the best rotation for Cosmic Ghost Rider? And my answer is always the same. It depends on the matchup. You know, my best advice is to learn a bunch of different cycles and just basically learn how he works, when to trigger what, in certain matchups. And once you really get multiple cycles down for multiple different type of matchups, and you use the ideal cycle, it is so insane, man. He has access to power gain. So if you play him correctly, you can get like almost 2 bars of power from this. You activate a massive Fury from your special 3. It lasts for 15 seconds. You can make that Fury last for 45 seconds. So you can have 100% uptime on this Fury once you get it active. You can activate another one by the time it would expire. You can stack multiple of these Furies. On the special 2, you activate a precision buff. Now, you have to not dex to trigger this, but there's a cycle you can use where you just go for the special 3 at the start. You can dex, and then you trigger a new cycle, and then the precision will be active again. This is a fat precision buff. It increases your critical rating by 8,400. That paired with the Fury, you're critting for like 80% of your combos. Your special 2 hits insanely hard. It places armor breaks. When your judgments, when you start a new loop of judgments, you leave 5 armor breaks on the opponent. Those armor breaks paired with these armor breaks just lead to 50k medium attacks. Just absolutely ridiculous damage output. You pair this with a cosmic boost. One of the most overpowered things in the entire game. I soloed, I think, 3 Killmonger bosses in this last season of Alliance War with Cosmic Ghost Rider, and every single one of them just felt super easy, like by far the best matchup. It's honestly just ridiculous. But you might be thinking, okay, he has the damage, I'll give you that, but where's his utility? So I'll tell you where his utility is. So Cosmic Ghost Rider has full immunity to bleed and incinerate. Sure, any immunities I'll take on a champion. Like, sure, bleed immunity is awesome for bleed nodes. For the bleed to suicide mastery, it makes him more suicide friendly. And immunity to incinerate, that's huge. You know, he can fight like champions like Mephisto. He can do nodes like Backblast, straight up incinerate inflicting nodes. He can fight Human Torch because it's incinerate immune. That's great. That is great. So he's got utility in those immunities. He's got utility in when fighting villain champions. He places an armor break on them. You might be thinking, why is that useful? It's just an armor break. Well, Killmonger, you never ever have to worry about reverberation unless there is a way for him to get rid of debuffs, or if he's like debuff immune, but you know, that's pretty rare scenarios. So yeah, Killmonger, most matchups you won't ever have to worry about reverberation. Like fighting him on the war boss node, I never have to worry about reverberation, which is pretty slick. Champions like Mysterio, when their armor broken, his helmet's broken. And there's more matchups that I'm probably not thinking of, and it's just a nice attack increase as well when you're fighting against villain characters. And then actually a lot of utility comes from his awakening ability. So people always ask me, does he need to be awakened? And I always say no, But honestly, like there's a lot of utility to be held within this signature ability, especially when you've really learned to play him, not perfectly, but play him really well. I'm not saying I play him perfectly, but I have a really good handle on how to play him. I used him for my Legends run in Act 7, Chapter 1, on a path where the opponent was, when they had the armor up buff, they were unblockable, and it was really annoying. And I used Cosmic Ghost Rider for this path because when I would apply my, normally you apply a power lock once you place 5 judgments on the opponent, but when awakened, you place a damnation, which heal blocks, power locks, and fate seal. So it gets rid of all their buffs, and they can't trigger anymore while it's active. So I really took advantage of this to get around their armor up buffs. And there's just so many facets for this actually that comes in handy, like fighting a champions like a Nihilist. You can get rid of his rod. I've done that in Alliance War. And yeah, the heal block is also nice if you're fighting, let's say, a Sabertooth. Get rid of his regeneration stacks. It's actually a lot of utility, and in a lot of matchups this can really come into play. Like the champion, you can take him with Cosmic Ghost Rider because of this. There's actually a lot of utility in that, and he's another one of those champions that you really need to learn how to play him well. And if you can do that, one of the best champions in the entire game. That's why I put up 94 million points in Arena for him, sacrificed 3 days of my life. I spent over $500 trying to get him from the crystals. That's why I've saved over 200,000 shards for his featured crystal, because I really genuinely think that he is that good of a champion. So Cosmic Ghost Rider coming in as the best champion released in 2020. I stand by that, and yeah, I just think he's really awesome. So there's my 35-minute video talking about the top 10 champions this year. Let me know if you guys agree. Let me know with what you disagree with. Again, it's totally cool. This is all my opinions, but let's be civil about it in the comments. We can have a chat about it. And yeah, that's going to do it. Drop a like if you guys would like to see the top 5 worst champions released this year. But yeah, that's going to do it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you watched the whole thing, appreciate it. Rambled on a little bit too much. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. We enjoy. Peace out.